Hello, you beautiful soul. Welcome to Awakened and Aligned. Thank you so much for being here. It's so good to see your face.
The pleasure is all mine. Thank you. Thank you for having me on here. Really, thank you. Really, I'm very grateful.
Thank you so much. So I'm so excited to introduce you to our guest, Sheetal. Am I pronouncing that right?
Yes, it's Sheetal. But
Sheetal.
mostly I get Sheetal. It goes from
I think
there.
it's my American accent.
Absolutely. Please. No problem at all.
Well, before we get into your story, because I do want to hear about your origin story, I just wanted to preface this talk with the power of the quantum field, because I had participated in Rama Institute's quantum healing weekend that was last Friday and Saturday, and I watched you on Saturday and I watched you talk, and I made a mental note in my mind that I wanted to reach out to you to get to know your work and to interview you for this podcast. And then I followed you on Instagram. And then that Monday when I opened up my Instagram, you were the first post. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is like, of course. And I messaged you thinking that you would, get to it in time or not respond, whatever it is, because I didn't know where you lived in the world. And you responded right away and you said yes. And I was like, oh my gosh.
And isn't that amazing? Sometimes, and this goes into the conversation about the quantum field as well, where I have to say there was this time I used to say, I've stopped saying it because because of the way beliefs form. But I used to say, I think God has left the tap open, the abundance tap open for me, and he forgot to switch it off. Because the moment I started this work, and as soon as I set the intention and how I arrived at this happened, automatically my soul family started getting called to me, and you are one of them, and automatically as I'm there, suddenly somebody says, would you like to? And then I say yes. And somehow where I do other work as well, whether I'm in a private session, whether I'm doing courses, workshops, or doing the admin for my work, at the exact right time and the exact right moment, I always have time to collaborate. I always have time, and it just happens in such synchronicity. And if you remember the first time around that we messaged each other, I replied to you, and immediately after, I think you wrote me an email, and in the email you got the dates and the days wrong, and one of the days was the same day. And I said, hey, I'm free now, why don't we just do it?
Yeah.
And suddenly we're doing our first Zoom call and just connecting with each other. I mean, what are the chances of that? And it is only when you flow in that sense, flow with the purpose, that you finally taken up for yourself. You accept your purpose and you flow with it, and then bam, synchronicity. It's amazing. I just love it. Absolutely.
Yeah, it still does not cease to amaze me. And during our conversation, you asked me, when you messaged me, what were you thinking about? What did you, and I said, I don't know. I just put the seed in my brain, and then everything kind of took off from there. So it really was simple, just like, I want to reach out to her. So
I have had people come to my workshops. I say to you, every time I organize a workshop, I am as giddy with excitement to meet the people who come for the workshops as they are to figure out why they're there. Because I always say to them, I say, this is my soul family. You're my soul family. And in the beginning of every workshop, I say, everybody, please look at each other. There's a reason all of you have come together in this space right now. I actually had one lady come up to me at the beginning of a workshop when registrations were happening. And she comes up to me, very unassuming, sweetheart of a lady. She comes up to me, she's a mom. And she says, very mousy, very sweet. And she says, I just want to tell you, I don't know why I'm here. I'm not into this spirituality thing. I'm too busy with my kids in school. And so I don't really know why I'm here. And I said, oh my God, you're going to find out. I was so excited for her to be there. And you know, as the workshop goes on, and it's mostly an introduction to sacred geometry and its connection really to the self. And at the end she goes, now I know. And it's such a beautiful feeling. It's such, and that is it. That's the synchronicity we're talking about here, you know?
Yeah. So where are you from? What's your story? Like, how did you grow up? I want to know everything.
I have had such an amazingly uneventful life. It is, you know, quite the stereotype of a Southeast Asian. I was born here in Dubai, and to two crazy people, I tell you, my mom and dad. And and then around the age of 3, I was shipped off to India. And so many circumstances as a young girl growing up in India, the kind of, you know, the kind of society that I was part of, there were, you know, there are traumas and beliefs that carries as well. And I was there from the age of 3 till 13. And then I was shipped back to Dubai. And at that point, a completely different journey began. But I am what is the American way of saying it? I'm a regular Joe person. I was partying, I was traveling, I was partying, I was and through this entire thing, there was this sort of thread that happened. And I guess in many ways I didn't notice it initially, but today in retrospect, you know how you look back at your life, and when you have finally reached on your path, and that path could be anything, it does not have to be the spiritual path. I realize it could also be the path to you fulfilling finally your talent or your skill, right? You look back and go, that's what I was being prepared for, you know? As a child, having faced a lot of traumas in the form of abuse, I used to always see this crazy woman apparition. She had like really big hair and red tongue, and please understand, as a young girl, I have no clue who that is, only to later find out that was goddess Kali. Now you could say she was my imaginary friend. You could say I was having a psychotic episode because of the pressure that I was going through. We'll never know, honestly, but I promise you I'm not crazy. And so, you know, she was there whenever, I would say, whenever I used to have deep chaotic times, I would just kind of see her, and it was pretty much sort of a, oh, everything's all right kind of thing. It was there was no words exchanged. It was sort of just this sort of figure, you know. It was forgotten, I tell you. At the age of 13, I came to Dubai, started going to school. Everything was very normal. And somewhere down the line in, I think, 2000, I want to say, I always get the dates wrong. Somewhere in the 2000s, within the first decade, I somehow discovered Reiki. I think someone spoke about it, and I said, what is this, healing with hands? No way, you know? And it was more done as a sort of badge of honor. If you can think of it that way, something to do like learning salsa and learning Reiki. That's really how it started. And then as I began to practice Reiki, and for those who don't know, Reiki is a Japanese healing system where you heal by your hands, and it's the Dr. Usui system of channeling the universe life force energy that's all around us and directing it through our hands. Now, in more modern spaces, that's called basically opening up the portals of your hands and allowing energy to flow through, right? And when I learned this, it somehow kicked open a door in my head. From there, I went into learning much later Theta healing, but in between ecstatic dance, manifestation laws, mandala healing. I am forgetting all of the modules I've learned. And I always say to people, learning a module is like getting a tattoo. You get one and suddenly, 10 years later, your face is covered with tattoos. Because each module you learn opens another door, and then you remember the first door that you open and you go, oh my God, that's what they were talking about. And so this goes on for a bit.
Mhm.
And next thing you know, 2013, and please understand, I worked in advertising for a good 15 years.
Mhm.
My whole life was about, um, I'm a writer. So it's about writing and creative ideas, and that entire advertising world of a world of madness, you know. And in the middle of this seemed like just a secondary thing. It really wasn't anything until in 2013. I was camping with friends in Nepal, and we were in this gorgeous valley called Bandipur. And I think the only way to describe it is to say it as it is,
Mhm.
without embellishing it too much and without trying to shy away from it too much. I was out walking through the valley, and then bam, I'd like to say the universe sat me down, and then I began to, what some may call download, so what some may call channel, and what a recent, soul brother told me, no, you aligned. I aligned with all the information there is to know about sacred geometry. So there I am sitting, just wanting to go camping with friends. And all of the stuff is in my head. And it was not, it typically, as an Indian who grew up as a Hindu and a Christian, my mom's Christian and my dad's Hindu, and lives in an Arab country, which is Dubai.
Mhm.
I never thought of the spiritual world in that sense, you see. So, and also you expect, when something like this happens to you, you expect an angel to come in front of you, or
Yes.
you expect
Yes.
God's voice to. There was no voice,
Mhm.
there was no vision, it was a knowing.
Mhm.
And I just sat down, and I'm sitting there going, oh, this connects to this and that connects to that, and da, 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 da. That went on for about 2 hours.
Mhm.
And in these 2 hours, the logical mind, the the Sheetal mind,
Mhm.
is sitting there going, oh wow, we've gone nuts.
Yeah.
So we've got to go back. We've got to be very careful not to go to the close of, to the edge of the mountains. When you go to the plane, just, keep quiet and get to Dubai, just, and then inform your parents that you've lost your mind finally, And this is what the conscious mind is saying, because the conscious mind cannot believe what is being registered. And so it was scary. I mean, I joke about it now, Laura, but scary, really. And I, until that point in my life, I had never heard the words sacred geometry.
Mhm.
I had never known about the flower of life or patterns or energy vibration, none of these, except saying through Reiki, you usually say, imagine you are channeling white light from around you or from the universe and sending it. It doesn't ever put it into a structural perspective.
Mhm.
And so I'm sitting there, and I begin to see what I did see, however, is I started seeing the patterns of nature. I
Mhm.
started seeing how one tree is connected to another plant, and I could see the energy lines, and people passing by. I could see their aura bodies. And again, I look back at it, it sounds so awesome to say it now, but it was very scary. And so I get all this information. After 2 hours, another 6 hours of sort of hiding and trying to run away, but how can you run away from your own brain?
Mhm.
And so I came back to Dubai, and before I could, what is it called? Go commit myself to an asylum. I, I decided to, I decided to, I decided to talk to my best friend Google. And so I'm online, not knowing what words to put in, right? I'm online going, patterns, everything is connected, and
Mhm.
boom bang bang, and I'm here.
Wow.
That's when I discovered my masters. I discovered sacred geometry, and I discovered that what I saw that day and what I downloaded that day was these patterns and these blueprints, and all of these things were basically information about sacred geometry.
Mhm.
Now that's essentially the origin story. So there you
Wow.
go. That's how I ended up saying, holy cow, I've got to now take this information and do something with it.
Yeah.
Um, it took me 5 years to finally let go of the reality of, the picket fence dream of safety in a job and all of these things, and um, to come out of it and say, the purpose is too big. It's too big. It was too big, to say, oh, it's just going to be a side thing that I do. And yeah, here I am.
Wow. So you were in advertising for 15 years, and then you realized that this is too big for you to keep to yourself. What was like the mindset change or like the spiritual thing that you had to do to finally make that leap?
Oh, it was the one was one was the fact that all these unbelievably annoying synchronicities started happening, where every post, every person who would connect with me, every meditation I would go for, there would be these, imagine it to be like Thoth himself, the Egyptian god Thoth, standing there like the Grim Reaper, like, really, you're going to ignore me? And I'm just like, dude, I don't have time for this. It's funny, but you know what I'm saying? That it would just be like really tiny things, and then the life I had in advertising, I have to tell you, as much as it is a commercial space where you're pretty much selling your soul, I enjoyed every moment of those 15 years, because it's every day you're paid to not be disciplined. You're paid to not have procedure. It's like, go out there and get me an idea that has never been done, So every day you're being creative. And if you remember earlier, I spoke to you about how everything that you are seems synchronistically sort of preparing you for where you want to head. Mm-hmm. When push came to shove, when I would go to work, and it didn't please me anymore. It didn't tickle me anymore.
Yeah.
But I could be sitting at one of those parties and having a conversation with someone with a drink in my hand, and I would go, "Do you know about sacred geometry?" And suddenly I'm all I'm all vivacious, I'm like, I found out, and then and I realized that it's just much bigger than me. And then eventually, to be honest, to be very, very sort of, to open up and be vulnerable in this space, because I think when you put this podcast out, there is an impression amongst people that, these coaches, or these downloads, or this alignment, or this moment of enlightenment, as we call it, happens to people who sit under a tree and meditate for a long time, or happens to, happy people just fall out of the sky and suddenly they're perfect. It really is not. It is something that you go through. Just today I put up a post on Instagram saying, magic exists, but you've got to make the magic happen. You are the magician. You see?
Yes.
So
my God, yes.
Yeah, so to drag myself out of it. And at one point, I think, I spoke to my family and I said, guess what? It's not going to be this fat salary all the time. And it's going to be, because again, the limiting belief in my mind is that, as a coach, you're not going to succeed. Few people will listen to you, but what's the point? It's these things. It's a coach does not make money. It's all of these limiting beliefs that come in. And I had to, and I'm one of those people, and this is the part where I'd like to talk to you about method. But I would say when that last moment really was when I received a call, and this came in after I had also done crystal healing and all of these things, and I had used one of my crystals to sort of amplify what I should do next. And I remember, do you know that when you're using a crystal and you set an intention into it, when the crystal has done its job, it will either go away or it'll break.
Yes.
Or it'll change color and it's done, And I used to keep my crystal in my bra. And I receive a phone call. I had kept it with me for over a little less than a month, and this crystal falls out, cracks on the floor, and I get a call from someone saying, "Hey, would you like to address a group of people and talk to them about energy and vibration?" And it was literally, remember I told you thought standing as the Grim Reaper, it's thought going, there, I've organized it, go for it, you know?
Wow. Wow.
And then I said yes to that and started doing this work. So one place I would go and talk about it, and then the other place would say, would you come here as well? And then the other place, and then the other place. And then I had set up the Sacred Being itself when I launched it, and I set it up in June 2018. I said, again, imagine the laziness of the human condition, right? And the idea was, oh, I'm just going to open an Instagram page and leave it there till the end of the year. Just, go easy. I don't have to hurry into it. I'm okay. Laura, it exploded, that page. It was all of a sudden where I had gone in and said, okay, I'll do a few workshops here and there in Dubai. I traveled to Portugal and I did a workshop. I did a hug therapy thing in Amsterdam. No, sorry, Rotterdam and Amsterdam, well, both. And I had a corporate event happen for sacred geometry healing and bringing energy into a team in Austria.
Wow.
This happened by that November, in fact.
Wow.
So I'm sitting there going, but I was supposed to go slow. And the universe is like, what are you talking about? We've been waiting for
work to do. We got work to do.
We've got work to do. Move it. And then earlier talking about synchronicities, anything you take up, and it's so fascinating to look at it that way. Any intention we take up, any purpose we take up, from the moment we took our first breath, anything we have done has prepared us for that final purpose. You know how they always say everything that you are, you've been preparing all your life to reach this moment.
Yeah.
I tell you, 15 years of advertising, and when I say advertising, please understand, I'm a writer. I'm the person who never got in front of the client, and I'm the person in the corner who's sitting there and writing. And and it's, as a writer, as a traveler, as somebody whose main work was to help decipher an ideology into a concept that everybody can understand. When I started to do workshops, one of the main reasons it got successful is because of the flow of the presentation. It was because of the way it was presented.
Yeah.
And over and above that, anything you say in a presentation, if you take any kind of a presentation, people like the way we are today, the world we live in today, people like to see, but where does that come from? And that's the new shift in consciousness. And I started looking at it from the perspective that I just don't want to go to a workshop and go to people and say, okay, so listen, around your body, there's this energy field, and this energy field does this, this, and this. It's the same as what every religion has said and said, hey, it exists, just believe the priest, right?
Yeah.
It is the same as what today we're different. The shift has already happened. We're currently experiencing the aftermath of the shift, I would like to say. But earlier, spiritual circles were, come to me with a problem, I'll lay my hand on you and you'll be fine. Or come to me with an issue and I will, place crystals on you and it'll be gone. You don't need to know how. But the greatest realization for me, and that also I've been getting prepared for all of these years, is that no matter what idea I present to you, I want to show you where the idea came from, what the proof is, what the point of this idea is, and what does that translate to for you. You see?
Yeah.
So instead of saying, bam, there's an energy field around you, in my presentations, I take people through actual proof. I show them scientific studies that have been done. I show them references in religion of, where ancient texts talk about it. I even show them pages of Leonardo da Vinci's notebook. And I show them, and that's where I always talk about not just working on your vibe. Now, when you go for a sound healing, when you go for, take any module or any methodology for that matter, that's working on your vibe, isn't it?
Yes.
When you go for a seminar, when you go for a psychology, psychotherapy, NLP, you're working on your mind. The other one was vibe, the other one is mind. And then there's when you only go for a run or only do yoga or only, cut off from toxic people, that's only your reality.
Yes.
I realize, and this is what I'm constantly telling people, you have to work on your mind, your vibe, and your reality.
Yes.
And this is it, and the moment I was able to fix that in, then it started. The mind is where I open you up to new perceptions and attitudes about sacred geometry. I show you that no part of me wants to hold this information back. No part of me wants to keep it with me and say, come to me. I have the information. I'll just heal you. So this is where in private sessions as well, I have clients saying, why can't you just be like other coaches? Just do the thing. Do the thing. Then when I walk out of here, $1 million should just drop on my head, and then and this is the exact thing. When I do those sessions, I'm opening up. When I do workshops, I'm opening up people's minds. When I'm telling them, hey, listen, stop behaving like you are a result of your environment. You are a result of your reaction to your environment. And the moment you shift your reaction, it shifts your reality,
Yes.
And that's where these little things come in. So that's in the workshop. And then when somebody sits in a private session from me or group healing sessions happen, then we get into working on traumas and beliefs. And this, anybody, Laura, you definitely must experience this too. You and me, people like you and me who have been already working on these things, you could be making coffee and you'll be like, oh, hello, trauma. And then we have that in us. We have that in us to sort of get in there, and we have learned the tools to go step by step and go, why did you turn up today? Right, okay, that's why. All right, I forgive, I'm grateful, I'm this, I'm that, and then you remove it. Whether you do it from the shamanic perspective, the scientific perspective, the psychology perspective, that is the scientific perspective, or you do it from a spiritual, energetic perspective, doesn't matter what the path is. People who have learned one module or the other know how to work on it. But then there's a large group of people who just go for the meditation, come back out, and don't actually go through the process inside their mind.
Yes.
You see? And that's where in private sessions, I make them go inside their mind. I make them step into that energy field, which is very accessible. And the results are crazy. It's fantastic. Because the moment you don't put the onus of your healing and the onus of your abundance on someone else, and the moment you put it in your hand, in your heart and in your mind, you've already won the battle.
Yes.
So I'm again in sessions that I do with clients, I'm always telling them, write to me after the session finishes. When you're doing your exercises, I want you to write to me and say, listen, your exercises are bullshit because I did this and this didn't work. So that I can then turn around and tell you, well, how about this, and we correct and correct. All I can do is kind of help you tweak the edges. But the main work of actually walking that path has to be yours, So that's where the methodology comes in as well, to work on mind, vibe, and reality, so that it can become something that a person can take with them and continue with it. At some point, I have clients, so they come to me, whether it's workshops, whether it's clients, they come to me every 30 days, every 60 days, doesn't matter. But even if you don't come back to me, now you have, how's that? Give a man fish to eat versus teach a man how to fish.
Yeah.
Essentially, I'm just helping people fish. And that's the goal. And that's where I come in with sacred geometry as a concept itself, which as a concept we have not discussed, I realize.
I know, that was my next question. I wanted to ask you, for people who don't know what that means, what does sacred geometry mean?
It is so interesting as a subject. Sacred geometry has been in the very name itself. It talks about geometry, and the sacredness of geometry itself. Now, it has been explored from the areas of architecture as well as art, and it has today wonderful, wonderful human beings like Nassim Haramein from the Resonance Foundation are looking at it from the perspective of modern science, and they're actually going deep in and checking, sort of giving us spiritual coaches and energy coaches the sort of material we require to move forward on the path that we already knew we were on. You know, whatever ancient texts have been saying, modern science is coming in and it's going, yeah, here you go. You know,
it's exciting.
Yes, isn't it? It's what a time to be alive.
I know.
What a time to be alive. I mean, me doing this work about 100 years ago, they would have burnt me at the stake.
Literally, I was poisoned in past life. So,
yeah, absolutely. And you know, the kind of using herbs was considered a heresy, and using any kind of geometric designs was considered that you're a witch, that you're a pagan, that you're, you know, a heathen, so on and so forth. What a time to be alive where science is beginning to use it, and it's fascinating. So sacred geometry is the very key to the design of the universe, right? Take in your mind the picture of a flower. You can see that the petals are symmetric. You can see that it has this beautiful, symmetric, wonderful geometric design. Take a succulent, gorgeous succulents. It's my favorite plant. It's just, you know, it's like nature saying, look at me. You know? Succulents are just so geometric.
I'm so beautiful.
I'm so beautiful and cute. You know? So if you look at a succulent, it's so symmetric and geometric. Now take a look at a honeycomb. You have these gorgeous, beautiful hexagons coming together to form this kind of, and the level of structural integrity that now humans are copying so that they can, you know, have stronger structures. And then take a nautilus shell, take an ammonite shell, and take please, for those of you listening, go check out what cymatics is. Cymatics. Cymatics is the study of sound projected through water or on sand, right? And as soon as a frequency is produced, the water begins to take on geometric shapes. For those of you who have been for sound healings, when initially the master begins, the facilitator begins, they kind of run the stick along the edges of the bowl, and you see the water turn into geometric designs. It's fascinating, right? So cymatics is one. The second, which when people who don't know see it, it blows their mind. It's called the dance of the planets. It is researchers who mapped the path between Earth and Venus, and then Earth and Saturn, and between two planets each, and mapped their path for 8 years, 7 years. And when the map came back because they thought it must be a random path that they're following, they're hurtling across the across the universe at such high speeds. Did you know that the Earth is moving through the skies at 110,000 kilometers per hour?
Wow.
Just mind-boggling. And here's you and me sitting so still and zen.
Right?
And so when they mapped the path and took that out, they make perfect mandala designs.
Wow.
They produce these gorgeous designs. And then now take that into the human egg itself. A fully formed zygote looks perfectly like the egg of life, or the seed of life. And from when we were just a thought in our parents' heads, we were geometry, the very part of us. And now try, and everything is made based on these mathematical calculations and geometries, right? So far I've spoken about like the physical space of things, nature, planets, the human body. Something quite fascinating is if you take your palm from finger to wrist and measure it and multiply it by 7.5, you get your height.
Oh,
That's just,
wow. Yeah.
that's the level of perfection. And when you don't get that, it's because there is some mutation or some trauma within your system that needs to be corrected. There's actually people who work on the vector equilibrium of your body. There's one gentleman named James Corber, who's a physiotherapist. He works in Australia, and he does this work where he takes you through a subconscious healing session, and after that session, your body has corrected itself.
Wow.
We're talking about joint pains and your body structure. You know, people who have kind of their shoulder off, or, you know, one of those things.
Yes.
You go to him and suddenly your shoulders are completely normal. And you're like, but you're sitting all the way in Australia on the phone. You've done this with me.
Yeah.
Right? From the physical, let's go into the mental.
Mm-hmm.
The brain produces different types of waves, gamma waves, theta waves, and so on and so forth. And it is these waves which, like vibrations, go out. Thoughts actually are vibrations, which is why it is possible to record it in when you go for a brain scan, right? You see those reports that have these jaggedy lines. It's Dr. Masaru Emoto who brought about the idea of, and everybody has seen this experiment, and it's just connecting the dots. That's the fun of it, you know. He took tumblers of water and he merely thought the word love into one, or wisdom or compassion, and in another one he thought, I will kill you.
Mm-hmm.
He goes back after a while, freezes the water, takes molecules out, and the one that was love or wisdom or compassion were these beautiful geometric snowflakes, right? Each molecule looked beautiful. Whereas the one that was I will kill you, or you fool, or one of those things, did not have a pattern. Now that blows your mind. You suddenly realize that even your thoughts have a pattern. Your thoughts have a geometric mandala that is produced out into the world, isn't it? And then that goes into the study of electromagnetic fields and how your body has this electromagnetic field, and that too has beautiful vibration that it sends out. Mm-hmm. Now, Sheetal, at the age of 19, the vibration she was sending out, I think, is what has caused coronavirus today. Forgive me. I was this angry child who wanted to take revenge and kill everybody and you know, rebel against the system, and you know. And then you have and so your system is your energy that you produce, and that mandala, that geometry that you produce, is a result of all the good times and the bad times and the good memories and the bad memories, the traumas and the beliefs and the positive and the negative, right? It is this, imagine this kind of beautiful 3D, 4D, 5D. I always say it's all the Ds, right? Mandala just being produced from your body. Now, where there's a trauma, there's going to be, think of it like a broken roadway, where the web is supposed to, like a dream catcher, where the web is supposed to be like a perfect geometry. Instead, it's slightly broken, it's slightly off, right? And that trauma has caused that. As the pattern repeats more and more in your life, the pattern of never being able to keep a job, the pattern of not being able to find the one you love, the pattern of being misunderstood all the time, the pattern of constantly feeling unworthy, these patterns repeat themselves. Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about how from the age of 0 to 9 is where our subconscious mind is set. 95% of us is done by the age of 9, you know? And then, by then, these neurological connections have already been made. So when you're repeating patterns, you're repeating that same trauma, same thing, but in a different situation. So as I sit as the 19-year-old and I try to send out love into the universe, or I try to, let's say, manifest abundance towards me, just simply think of it as the abundance is everybody's birthright, you see? Just because you are you and I am me, there is no hierarchy for abundance. Everybody, it's like Oprah going, you get $1 million and you get $1 million. Everybody has $1 million. Abundance is for everybody. There is just no part of it that is limited. None, zero, you see? But it depends on how well you have maintained the cosmic garden of your sacred geometry.
Ooh.
So if I have a trauma within my system that has broken the roadway, imagine this flood of abundance coming my way. The universe is like, give it to her, right? And then as it comes in, it stops.
Yeah.
Because I have said there is a deep set belief in me that I'm not good enough for abundance, or I'm unworthy and therefore I do not deserve abundance. And I'm sitting there going, wait a second, I placed an order of large abundance. Where is it? It is because these roadways, these blockages have happened. And because the blockages are there, it is unable to reach towards you. And please understand, I'm sure whoever is listening understands that I'm being analogical and metaphorical with, how this works. It's far deeper than that, surely. Even I don't know the depth of it. But to simplify it, you have to think of it that way.
Yes.
That's one part of it. So you work on your traumas and beliefs, sort of like correcting the roadways, so the abundance can start flowing in. The day I forgave my abusers, the day I finally felt deep gratitude for the times that shaped me, you see, each of those moments, if we had like a locker room full of files of exact moments of my life, and we actually mapped it. First of all, if there was a locker room, I would burn it down. But if we were to map it, then you would see that every time I plugged in the codes of gratitude or forgiveness, that's when abundance started opening up more and more and more.
Yeah.
To a point today, I still have a lot to work on. I still have a long way to go. I know this. It'll take me several lifetimes to get there. But today, I think it and it arrives to my door. I have, some of the examples are so bizarre that it is not possible for me to believe it in order for me to say it to you.
Yeah.
Cleaning the house, this is such a simple example, but cleaning the house, opening the drawer and going, I've run out of incense, right? Closing the drawer and the doorbell rings. And one of my clients is standing there going, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Did I disturb you? Are you having a session? I'm like, no, I'm in my pajamas. And she goes, I just came back from, what was it? India? India. It was India. I just came back from India and I was passing by here and I just wanted to give you this gift. Open the bag. There's 5 boxes of incense in it.
Wow.
Right? Needed money for organizing workshops. There was a family matter that came in and a large amount of money went out. And instead of the usual thing that we do of worrying and getting into anxiety, I surrendered that feeling to the universe. Quite literally, the very next day, an opportunity with double the money comes my way.
Wow.
And I'm just sitting there going, whoa, this is scary. You know? Talking about that level of abundance. So that's number one, to work on your traumas and beliefs, to shift your perceptions and attitudes, and to work, and remember reality, to actually set real goals and visions and head towards it, so that you can repair these highways and you can allow for abundance to enter, welcome abundance. And the second is the fact that you're sending out this vibe, right? We all know people who, if we're sitting at a party and this one person, a woman or a man, walks in and you're like, wow, that person walked in and it feels like the place lit up, you know? You always have that, like, wow, what a great vibe that guy has, you know? And we all also know people who walk into the house and the plants die. Right? So this is the vibe of a person. This is your vibration. This is the energy that you are exuding from the deepest part of your soul.
Yes.
And science is today proving to us that this beautiful energy, which is visually represented as sacred geometry, this energy actually looks geometric if you actually measure it. This energy can actually shift and change the spaces, the environments, and the people that you interact with. Now, don't you think, Laura, then somewhere deep inside it, almost, if you're in the right mindset, I would say, I mean, there's no right and wrong, but really the most compassionate mindset, you would say, my God, it then becomes my responsibility to work on my vibe.
Yes.
I want to do it for me, yes. But I want to walk into every room and everybody starts thinking of, I don't know, chocolate ice cream. You know, that effect. You know, it is so important that we work on ourselves. One, to recognize our power. Each one of us, and I do not say this, somebody asked me, would you like to take up a challenge like that? And I said, no, there is such a thing as free will, you see. But a person who has never been part of anything spiritual can get up, can come into a spiritual space, set vibe, mind, reality, set actual goals within these places, and they have that same superpower that you and me have as healers, coaches, and all the other designations that we give ourselves. Yeah. You see? And for example, I have this one client in the very nascent stage of my work, came to me, a mother. She had a 2-month-old baby, and she had to come in at 7 a.m. while the baby's still sleeping, and left the baby with her mother. She came in and she said she's anxious and she has all of these traumas, and sat down with her. I told her, this is this, this is this, and this is this. This is sacred geometry. Hello, ta-da! And then this bulb goes off, I love that moment. I love that moment when people go, oh my God. That when all the dots connect, one of those puzzles where you connect the numbers and it turns out to be a big giraffe. It's that same feeling, And I love that moment, because each time that moment happens with someone, I relive that happening to me, So she comes to me, she sits down, I do the session with her, give her 30 days of exercises. That's what I do in my private sessions. I give the person, so it's not, come here, let me play some crystals on you, or let me do some activation. Yes, I do activation, and I'm I really get deep immersion with people. But after that, I send them back with homework. Now that you've done this, go clean this up, sort this out, set this up, open this up. And so 30 days later, I think she called me saying she wants to book a session with her sister. And I thought it was really just to book a session. And she calls in and she says, I have to tell you something. My baby was born with allergy to wheat, banana, rice, and milk. So basically, this baby was living off the mother's tit, you see. And she said, by the 20th day or so, the baby had to be taken to the doctor, and they tested the baby, and all the allergies had disappeared.
Whoa.
Simply by working on her own energy field, which is when we say energy field, that includes your body, your mind, and your vibe. Yes. By working on it, she was able to molecularly rearrange the elements within her body to provide her child the right medicine, the right immunity, so that it could fight its allergies.
Wow.
That is what I'm talking about. This is a mom. This is a regular mom who's never done anything spiritual, you see? And on the other spectrum of it, I have had healers come to me. And they would go through this same journey. And these are people who have done all kinds of things, right? Typically, you know how we are, like how people go for different parties and different concerts. We go for different healing sessions. We're like, I heard there's a sound healing out there. Let's go, And it's true, though.
Very true.
Yeah. And so another healer comes to me and does the same process. Now, understand the process is really simple. It's opening your space up into the energy field, helping you identify that there is such an energy field, and then going in and teaching you how to unravel, unlock, re-engineer, and then being able to change that into a space where you are shifting your energy field.
Mm-hmm.
Clients have come back to me. These are healers. These are regular practitioners, right? They've come back to me talking about how their abundance matrix have opened up, their relationships have calmed down. And one person came back to me, and this is a crystal healer, and I forget the other part of what she did. Crystal healer, I think. And she came back and she says, I have started having visions. And these visions, she was using them to help people. Now, come on, all of us are these amazing beings. All of us have that capability within us to do this, you see. And that again, I'd like to end this with saying there is that scientific fact that every individual molecule in our body has one biophoton. There's a photon, there's a light particle, but it's so low plasma light that we can't see it with our naked eyes. But do you know that dogs and cats can actually see that light?
Yes.
Which is why in the night, when we walk around, they can see us, because their eyes are capable of registering that low level light, So the way we see visions of angels, these beautiful light beings, coming down from the skies, dogs and cats look at me and go, look, it's a god.
Yeah.
So all of us are light beings. All of us have that beautiful power in us. And what sacred geometry shows us, with absolute connection through every single ancient culture, through all the religions in the world, pick a religion, and they have some connection to sacred geometry. The very foundation of who they are begins at sacred geometry. Suddenly you look at all the religions and go, wait a second, all of you are the same, you see? Take any spiritual practice. A spiritual practice always talks about energy body. Take the beautiful space of Kundalini workshops as well, right? Or Kundalini energy as well. And the Kundalini energy also is a space where you are opening up to your energy bodies, the emotional body, the mind body, the spiritual body, the etheric body. And isn't that fascinating that all of us are just one? And which is why I have called what I do as the sacred being. And people ask me, so are you the sacred being? And I say, no, we are the sacred being.
Yeah.
It's all of us. There's only one sacred being, and that's all of us as this one beautiful, wonderful, ever intelligent, unconditional love, non-judgmental, beautiful, crazy consciousness called the oneness, this universal energy matrix, So there you go. That's sacred geometry, and that's sort of the work I do within sacred geometry. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that is so beautiful. I am so grateful for you and for the work you do. So I just started working with the quantum field and sacred geometry probably the last month, and since April. And this morning during my meditation, I don't know what I'm actually doing. I just know that I leave my body, I go into some sort of astral traveling, I go out into the universe and I see Earth, and Earth is this beautiful crystalline grid, and it looks like the flower of life. I don't know if that's true or not. I just see like Earth illuminating with that grid on it. And I just, whenever I want to say a prayer or I want to share information to the grid, something magical always happens, and I don't even have to like reach out to people. I don't even have to find people. Somehow they find me, and everything just works so easily. And so this morning during my meditation, I sent you a message, and I just said, whatever you want to say, whatever comes out and flows out of you, I will just give you the space, and I want you to just flow with it. And literally you said everything that I was going to ask you without me even having to ask you. And that's why it's so magical.
It is. I tell you again, if you were to sit me down, I don't know, tomorrow, and ask me the same question, I swear to you the story would be completely different.
Yeah.
Well, not hopefully, but it would come down to, I always believe when we And this, I'd like to first talk about the visualization that you are having, seeing the crystalline center of the earth itself and seeing it in the form of its energy. Yes, that's Laura in the US seeing it this way.
Mm-hmm.
Now go to the very other end of the world, deep inside a village. There is another Laura who would close their eyes, go deep inside, and they would see the God that their village has been talking about all the time. Go from there, go deep inside the mountains of Pakistan and take a beautiful Islamic Laura and go into that person's mind, and that person would see Allah as the light, as the ever guiding light, right? Then from there go towards a space where you are anywhere. Now take it to any religion, any culture, whether it's a pagan culture, everybody has their own visualizations.
Yeah.
They have their own archetypes, their angels, all of these. And in Theta healing, yes, correct. In Theta healing, they talk about all of these ascended masters, angels and gods, and these beautiful beings are on the fifth plane.
Yeah.
And if you are seeing them, if you are experiencing them, that's because they've come in with blessings. Yes. And at the same time, no matter who is visualizing it, there is I believe what is more important than the content of the visualization is one, that you can visualize. That you can visualize in itself is you allowing your mind, is you allowing your energy, is you allowing your body to be, to flow. Yes. So that's number one. And then second is the intention behind it. That intention has to be so pure and clear, so set in stone in that sense, that in itself is the success of doing this. Vianna Stable herself, the Theta healer, the one who created Theta healing, or rather compiled Theta healing, she herself says, remember, don't get lost in the brain candy. Angels come in, angels go, center of the earth, center of another planet, saw the pyramid, spoke to this. I have beautiful colleagues out there who talk to me, and they speak in light language. And when they're speaking in light language, they're connecting with Arcturian children. They are connecting with a race that is in X planet and X quadrant of our universe. And it's so fantastic.
Yeah.
The only thing to remember is that the paths are 1,000,000, the destination is one. And it sets the tone. It sets the tone. And as soon as I set myself in that space, that the paths are many. So today, for example, if I would have come here and I would have said, I only speak from the perspective of X type of healing, and you would have said, I don't believe in that type of healing, I only believe in this type of healing. You, as healers or as coaches, again, any designation we give ourselves, right? As these people, we are already creating division. And that's where we need to constantly merge the lines. And as long as we merge the lines and don't feel like one module is better than the other, and we all go down to the basic, I always say this, and I'm not really sure if your listeners will get the reference, but whoever has watched the movie, The Big Fat Greek Wedding.
Yes.
The father who always says, tell me any English word and I'll show you the connection of it to Greek. Right? I'm like that. Talk to me about anything. And I'm like, did you know that this is connected to sacred geometry? The very foundation, the very beginning, the very first breath of any subject can be brought down to sacred geometry, can be brought down to the energy, can be brought down to the frequency, can be brought down to the base design of the universe. And when you operate from that space, everybody is welcome, everything is welcome, nothing is for certain, and everything is love.
Oh, well, on that note, I'm so excited to work with you personally. But if anybody else wants to work with you, how can they find you? We'll link everything below.
Perfect, wonderful. I'm with the sacred being, still working through Instagram, and yes, it would be fantastic to expand this community. I always tell seekers who work with me, whether they come for a workshop or the private session, honestly, I tell them, well, now you are my client. In about 5 years, I'm hoping you will teach me something,
Mm,
because we never know what each one of us is going to unlock. And
yes.
I do, having said that, I have to say, I do have some people who've come back and become my teachers,
Mhm.
who've turned around and said, hey, you do that? How about this? And I'm saying, wow. Awesome. Laura, thank you so much for this.
Thank you
Thank you. This has been
so
so
much.
much fun.
This
So
was
much fun.
fun.